Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. I'm Laura Malevich. I'm the Director of Marketing at PlaniFi Solutions. Today, we're excited to have our partner of planning, analytics, and consolidations, Jarrett Bialik, discussing and demoing capital and project planning. When the webinar concludes, a short survey is going to appear. So if you can please fill it out, we'd really appreciate the feedback. Please feel free to reach out to Jarrett or myself after the webinar with any questions. And now I'll hand it over to Jared. He can get started.
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, let me share my screen here. Great. Lauren, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. We are going to talk about capital planning on the PlaniFi platform. So, what we're going to cover today is kind of what PlaniFi is, a little bit about Simplify, and then we're going to talk about our capital planning and project solution that we have. So give you a little bit of background, and let me just start the presentation here. So PlaniFi is a platform for planning, analytics, and consolidations. Sorry. Not going to the next slide. Okay, great. So this is a platform that's built on SAP Analytics Cloud. So all you need is an SAP Analytics Cloud license, but it is being rolled out to other platforms as well. That's the plan, is for it to be business content that is technology agnostic, that can service customers across multiple industries for planning, analytics, consolidations. It's a platform that's brought to you by Simplify. Simplify is a boutique consulting firm that's been specializing in FP&A solutions for roughly 8 years. All of our consultants have been in this space for over 15 years, all of our client partners and our owner. So we bring all this breadth of experience to this platform, and what we've really seen is that customers are looking for what are the best practices, what are other companies like mine in the industry or across industries, what are they doing for planning and analytics and financial reporting. So what we've built is a bunch of modules that sit on the PlaniFi platform that you can implement individually or together or in conjunction with a couple models at a time. These are integrated. They are customizable to use your chart of accounts, use your cost center hierarchies, your profit center hierarchies, your materials, what have you. We can add specific security considerations. So it's a prepackaged solution that is also customizable to your needs. So what we do is, bring this value of a prepackaged solution, which limits the amount of implementation time, limits the cost. We also provide additional business services as part of the prepackaged solution implementation. And that service could be, addressing planning processes, reporting processes, and also fitting it to your current requirements. Simplify has award-winning business content that's been recognized by SAP as part of the Hackathon Challenge. We've our consultants have won that challenge in the past. We were runner-up this year for our liquidity solution. So these solutions are validated by the market and by SAP. So the technology platform, again, aligns with FP&A, line of business planning, Includes analytics and data modeling, financial statements and consolidations. We're looking to automate as much of the critical reporting and insights as possible. A lot of what we're seeing is the same from client to client, the core requirements, and that is something that we can just roll out at low cost and high quality standard consistency. So some of our projects and some of the benefits that we're expecting to see are, for example, 35% decrease in the amount of hours spent on the budget forecast, 25% decrease in the duration during a planning cycle, 20% decrease time to close for consolidations. We're looking at 100% ROI within 10 to 18 months of between cost savings and efficiencies by implementing our prepackaged content. So some of our examples are, again, financial statement and consolidations, performance reporting, headcount, people costs, capital allocation, capital planning is what we're going to go into today. And the value to customers is to optimize the back office reporting and business planning processes, decreasing that time to employ so that you can focus on your business and analytics. These are some of the areas that that we cover with PlaniFi. You can see all the different planning areas from creating pipeline, sales planning, revenue planning, material costing and COGS, all the way to profit and loss statements, expense planning, HR planning, capital planning, other financial statement plannings like balance sheet and cash flow, intercompany, and that award-winning content liquidity planning that I mentioned earlier. And this is applicable across all industries. Comes with training as well, training on both our solution as well as the SAP Analytics Cloud tool. It's an example of how a lot of the business content can fit together and how it kind of can work left to right as we're planning in more detail. We can start with our pipeline and our sales. That can feed to a revenue and costing module, which then feeds ultimately to the financial statements. Same thing with HR planning, headcount planning, expense planning, and capital planning. So for example, one solution that we've gotten a whole lot of traction on, one of our most popular solutions, is our consolidation solution. A big reason for this is that with BPC being replaced by SAP Analytics Cloud, the replacement for the C in BPC, the consolidations piece, is group reporting. However, in order to run group reporting, you need to be on S/4HANA. And some customers aren't on S/4HANA yet, and the upgrade to S/4HANA may still be a couple years down the road, or they're currently in the process, but they need a consolidation solution now, and those S/4HANA upgrades can take 1, 2, 3 years, depending on the size of your organization. So we have a SAP Analytics Cloud-based consolidation solution that works on the SAP Analytics Cloud platform, can still bring in data from your SAP transactional system, be it ECC, or any other transaction ERP. It can also take in flat files. So if you are doing your consolidation financial reporting in Excel, we're also able to take that as well, load it into our models, and then give you the standard prepackaged solution, book of reports, and consolidations functionality. Things like intercompany eliminations, automated roll forwards and cash flow, the ability to add topside journal entries, allocations, report in constant currency, CTA calcs, what have you, all the standard consolidations financial reporting functionality. So what we're looking to with this consolidation solutions are for people who want to move away or current customers of BPC, Hyperion Financial Management, OneStream, or Excel. It's an example of some of the reporting that comes as part of our prepackaged content. This is with the reporting and analysis, with financial statements, waterfall reporting, some numeric point metrics, lots of different graphing capabilities, the ability to filter and select and navigate to what you need to see. This is an example of our HR plan components. Again, pretty flexible in the ability to plan at high-level cost center or down to the employee level. Different options, different scenarios. Some companies will even do a mix of both. But we can see here that a lot of these calculations are built in and part of the content. So our deployment approach is that we implement the prepackaged solution. We take into account some of your industry considerations and what may need to be changed, and then add on top of that any client-specific requirements that need to be implemented to fully meet your requirements. So there are companies that are able to take these prepackaged solutions out of the box and use them as is, making only the changes, getting their master data in the system. Other clients do need some tweaks in terms of maybe adding a dimension, adding some additional reports, some different views, what have you. So as we're looking, the low config here, we see low config adjusted, medium, high. This is when we put in the prepackaged solution, what level of configuration after that do we need to do in order to meet your requirements, right? So if we're going in with a prepackaged solution and all we need to do is just update the master data, that would be all the way to the left, low config. We're aiming for solutions like our consolidation solution to be low config or that low config adjusted. For planning, what we're seeing is that we are kind of that low config adjusted to medium type of configuration. So planning's a little bit more nuanced. Consolidations, we're seeing a lot of adoption of our content as is. We do have solution roadmaps for all of our content. We publish these, we give them during webinars, kind of what the expected enhancements are going to be. We publish them on our website, on our communications to customers. So please keep a lookout for that as we announce roadmap enhancements to our solutions. This is an example. SumUp is a customer that implemented our consolidations prepackaged solution. And this was a customer that had a lot of success. They're based out of Bulgaria. A lot of success in implementing it with very little additional configuration. Really, all we had to do was, change their account structure and chart of accounts, bring that in, some other master data adjustments, but they were able to use the reporting pretty much as is, with only a couple additional reports that we created. They were able to do this for 60 plus subsidiaries. We were able to give them automated financial statements, balance sheet, income statement, cash flow, be able to do intercompany eliminations, currency translation. This is a global company. A big multi-billion-dollar company, and they were able to run their consolidations using our prepackaged solution on the PlaniFi platform. So we'll come back to this slide after you see. We'll get into the CapEx solution now, but if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My name is Jared Bialik, at Simplify Solutions. Quick background about myself: I've been in the SAP space for over 18 years now, been consulting for 22 years, focused almost entirely on SAP FP&A products. So I started in BW in 2005, got into BPC shortly thereafter, 2008, 2009, before the acquisition of OutlookSoft. Been working with BPC up until SAC and group reporting came out, and then transitioned, kind of doing both BPC, but primarily SAC and group reporting projects. So that's my background. I've worked for boutiques, startups as an independent consultant, and as well as Big Four. I was at KPMG for 6 years. So seen a lot of different clients, been engaged in a lot of different, types of implementations, from full financial large-scale transformations, $300 million finance transformations, all the way down to implementing, these prepackaged solutions that, are kind of quick in and out, and very effective. So seen a lot, and yeah, happy to get into the consolidations piece now. So as we open up the consolidations launchpad, this is what we create. Basically provides kind of a home base for all of your CapEx planning needs. So this, from this page, we can add new projects, we can add our business flows, we can look at project reporting, prioritization, and approval. We can look at different types of reporting and plan versus actual analysis. We can look at how projects are submitted, what status they're in. We can change that status. We can add drivers and assumptions. We're going to go through all that. We're also going to show you, some of the calculations that are done that are included with the platform, and some of the reporting that we show as well. So let's get into it. With the addition and submitting a project, a lot of clients have the requirement for their end users or capital planners to be able to add new projects. They're going to add projects. They're going to add some criteria and some attributes of this project, which will then be used later in calculations. So we've built, for a specific steel company, we built a web form that aligned with basically what they were looking to capture in their project creation. So, basically adding a project that includes a generated project number. We can assign it to a business unit. Here, if we drop down, we can assign, multiple business units. We can assign, project numbers, project reasonings, and we can also say who is required, on the investment committee, who's going to be participating in this, and this can be a lot of flags. We can also add descriptions and commentary around, why this project is valuable, why we're adding it, what some of the expected benefits and proposed investments would be. And these are all standard, SAC functionality. This is built in an analytics app, but this functionality that you see here for adding comment, you can just click into this, and then you can just type in the comment, submit it, and then it's going to, give you basically a timestamp of who entered that comment when they entered it. So this gives us complete flexibility to, enter in data, such, like investments into this project, when we would be, putting out cash, receiving cash as a result of this project, kind of where are those investments going, what areas. This is completely customizable. So this is built to spec, this particular input form. But again, it's, now that we've built this is pretty easy to adjust to your specific requirements. But we can see here, we can have, multi-selection checkboxes. We can have these flags, yes or no. We can have printable pages that require signatures or levels of approval. And then we can also capture those, using flags. We can capture in the database and report on what projects have been approved and not. So looking at the project, if we're to add a new project, we'll show you what that looks like. Using the standard, SAP Analytics Cloud, not the Analytics application. So as we're looking, most of our sheets have easy to follow instructions and definitions on what exactly is required and what each attribute does. So you can always come back here to fill it out. As we're adding projects, we can look, we can create a new project by just, adding a new row here. And you can type in kind of a new project description if you're it's basically going to say can't find the existing member, so you go ahead, hit OK, and then it's going to ask for all the different properties for that project. So very easy interface, similar to the Analytics app in its functionality. In terms of, you're adding a project, you're adding start year, start month, project priority. All these are used to, further facilitate calculations down the road. So if we look at a project that's already created, and look at this capital planning project, and you can look at multiple projects at once. You can see, what the investment was, when the start dates are, but let's just kind of narrow this down to this specific project. And you can see here that we have initial project investment of 2 million euros. It's budgeted, it's project priority of 3, starts in 2020, February of 2020, ends in December of 2022, requires a project level, approval of 2. So then, as we're looking here, we can add project drivers, for this specific project. We would be, this filter would flow through, as we're looking here. And again, just looking at the attributes of this specific project, we can see things like, what is our internal rate of return target? How is this going to affect days, our DSO, our inventory on hand, our DPO? What's our expected gross margin? What are some of the expected costs, ongoing costs, in terms of where repair expenses are going to be, our anticipated repairs expenses, maintenance, insurance, property taxes. Now, not all of these are going to be applicable for every project, but, as this example, we're just showing you that these are all drivers where, based on the initial investment, and some of the, assumed values of the asset, we can drive a whole suite of calculations based on this data entry. So after we enter our drivers, we can seed, these are our discounted cash flow drivers. So this goes on, as I mentioned, to do those additional calculations. So as we're looking at our project financials, and this allows us to see, project financials across multiple projects. This is a specific project, but we're able to see, based on those numbers that we put in, what our expected net revenue is going to be, by year, what our expected cost of goods sold, repairs, maintenance, all the way down to, how all these calculations are going to impact, the internal rate of return, the profitability index, what have you. So all the financials of a project, are captured in this solution. Some of these will then be sent to the financial statement, such as the depreciation expense. That's going to flow through to your financial statements. And we'll show how that's done at the end of this presentation. But as we're looking, we again can filter down to a specific project that we know. And you can set up these filters to be, again, to run on multiple projects or individual projects. But as we're looking at these, projects, we can, look at the financials to, sorry, wrong. Again, we can look at these, again, across down to individual project or across multiple projects. So completely customizable. We can also run and seed our discounted cash flow drivers. This is a data action that would run that. Then it calculate discounted cash flow after we seed our drivers, and then calculate our internal rate of return. So now we're going to come back here, and we're going to look at our project metrics and look at whether or not we are approving this, kind of which projects have been submitted for approval, which projects have been approved. So again, we're looking at this at kind of a total project level. What's nice about this is that we can sort by project status, or we had a customer that wanted us to include, they had their own score, metric that basically rated their submitted projects. So based on calculations that they had, they would say if it was a 5, it's pretty much project that they would go forward. If it was 3, it didn't really have much business justification. 2 and 1, they would pass on. So we can attach things like an internal scoring metric that allows you to analyze, either based on the internal rate of return or what the payback period is, or the profitability index. We can calculate this score, or this score can be something that's manually entered by someone who's doing that calculation offline. So a lot of different options here. But this just gives you a nice dashboard. And then if you wanted to, you could take this and we can move these projects from submitted to review just by running this data action right here. So if I were to run this, you know, you can run it for all projects, but I'm just going to run it for one project. So I'm going to run it for this capital planning project. And I'm going to move this from submitted for review to approved because I'm a project approver. And now it's going to show that this project, you know, moved to approved and how it changes the values, you know, kind of across the system. So we see that change, you know, decreased, you know, in one area, but increased the approved area. So, you know, what's nice about SAC is that it gives you this, you know, ability to see what data has changed, but then you can also, you know, only look at your approved, for example. So now I can just see, you know, all my approved projects, you know, and I can move forward and I can, you know, go on and calculate my depreciation expense and other metrics, you know, based on these approved projects. So after we look at a project, we might also want to look at kind of planning and actuals as these projects are incurring expenses. You know, we can evaluate these projects and we can cancel them or keep them moving forward. Again, this is something that we can look at across, you know, across multiple entities, across, you know, all different types of projects, asset classes, time periods. So complete flexibility here in how we're evaluating this data. You know, just giving us plan versus actual, and again, we can, you know, dig down into the individual project level. We can look at the individual variance detail. And what's nice is we can even pick, you know, what our last month of actuals are. So we can say, you know, this, if our period is December, we can go ahead and, you know, we can take in actuals, you know, through basically whatever our period is. And all of our charts are going to update accordingly. So here we get a nice little metric here on, you know, forecast versus actuals. So, you know, all these are pretty positive, but we can set this up, you know, to be negative if it's, you know, positive for revenue, you know, forecast minus actuals, and your you know, actuals come in higher for revenue, that can be positive, but if they come in higher for expenses, we can code that so that it's negative, and shows up as red. So, you know, these are completely customizable by accounts. Is something that we have, you know, all over the place in our financial statement planning. This just gives you the ability to look at projects, you know, both on an individual and company-wide basis, and see what's driving those spend variances. As we look at our life-to-date spending, again, we can look at this using a heat map and kind of, you know, across different areas and asset classes, and cost centers, you know, functional areas, how this is, you know, how our spending is tracking to our actuals. These are all life to date. So again, I can just change kind of what the last month of actuals is to change the scope of time that we're looking at. But again, it's something that looks across, you know, multiple projects, and can look at multiple regions as well. So all I have to do is just click this North America, and we're going to see across, you know, all of our projects, you know, across East and West, you know, how that's going to, you know, how we're looking, how we're trending, according to our spend analysis. Okay. So now that we've approved a project, it's time to go in and add our assets. If they've been added, we can kind of say when they go into when they go into service, and then we calculate depreciation. So here's an instructions tab that basically, we have the ability to calculate straight line, double declining balance, or based on units of production. We are, adding various assets, and then once we add those assets, we have basically reconciliation reports that say, have you added enough assets to match your total investment? So looking at how we enter in assets, again, this is something that can be done for multiple projects at a time, or you can do an individual project, but we're looking here at what the initial expense is, what the useful life is of that project, what's the depreciation method, and when does it go in service. So then based on those, again, these are completely customizable by by different assets. So we can have, this is based on units of production. So then we're adding units of production, and we would basically get our depreciation spread out across periods based on units of production. So this is where we add this, so we can, again, manually maintain this as it is here planned. We can load it from another system. We can load our assets, we can load our depreciation. So very flexible to either use kind of an asset management system that you're already using, or we can plan it here in these input templates. So as we're after we enter our assets, we're basically then looking at all of our projects and some of the metrics, according to what the book value of that asset is, what the opening balance, closing balance, calculated depreciation across all the periods, once it goes in service, what the depreciation rate is. And yeah, so this gives us a lot of metrics that we can use to analyze what is the depreciation expense that's going to be sent to the financial statements. How is our how is this affecting our residual book value? How is our month and amount of depreciable value being affected by all these calculations? And these are all have opening balance, have increases, and then basically closing balances. So we can, again, what's nice about this is that we can calculate this depreciation. We can run it across all periods. We can run it for by entity, and we can run it by several projects. So we can run as we're looking here, we're selecting here, we're running this on an individual project, but we do have a schedule that allows for multi-project depreciation counts as well. So after we calculate our depreciation, we can then come in and look at basically our financials for for all of our projects as a whole. So we can look across all different project IDs, get our assets for purchase for various forecasting periods, our depreciation expense. We can look at this by asset class. So a lot of different types of reporting. If we look at by project, again, some more charts that we can look at where we're able to kind of drill down. We can see this planned depreciation, by different asset classes. So yeah, very nice. And these can be, again, changed, configured to be whatever level of detail that you require. So as we're looking at monthly projections, we can kind of look at, how we're putting assets into service, basically what we're taking out of service, what's being depreciated, what's coming off the books. We can look at our monthly depreciation expense, and we can look at this across entities, across projects. So then once our depreciation's been calculated, then we basically run this, and this sends it to this will send it to our financial forecasting model. So that's the capital planning. So in that you saw kind of how we calculate depreciation, how we can calculate a bunch of other metrics. I want to take you through the project planning real quick, which is a nice addition to our prepackaged content. As we're planning those projects and had kind of the high level had the high level values for kind of what the level of investment was. We had clients that said, we'd like to be able to also tie into that, kind of being able to plan those projects individually. So we built this for semiconductor company, being able to plan their project cost, everything down to inputting their labor rates by different roles. And we can, again, have this by different entities, by different salary groups. So we can configure this to any level of granularity. Then we move on to planning project demand. So how many employees or hours is each of these groups by project are they going to require? So if we're doing a research project, how many engineering, how many QA, management, legal hours is each project going to require across the amount of periods? So then after we get our project demand, we can plan our resources, and then this will calculate basically we can see here that we have all of our hours here, but our hours demanded fall short of our hours supplied. So then we can kind of break into what hours. We can see here that a generic resource contractor, makes up the full shortage. So, we can then go in and basically supply more hours for that role. But it's a nice little thing that, a nice report and quick reconciliation report so that you can see, does your do your assignments match up to your project demand? So again, as we're reviewing shortages, this is just kind of another view that allows us to view the shortages at a high level. So we can see that this project is good, there's no shortage. And then we can kind of drill into here, we can see that there's an engineering shortage of 904 hours. We can also plan our resource costs. So this can be linked with our workforce planning content to bring in salaries and fully to bring in salaries and fully loaded costs for each individual employee or role. We can then calculate basically what the what the anticipated labor costs are, match that up with the total hours supplied, and we can get cost rates and total effective costs by each type of resource. We can also put commentary here to explain differences in plans. So if the current plan is higher than the previous plan, we can say, costs for contractors, costs for, due to inflation or salary adjustments, resulted in a 10% increase over the prior plan. We also have an area to enter non-labor costs. So this is, again, completely customizable into what accounts you want to enter, but this would then just be combined with the resource costs to give you project totals. So as we're reviewing these project totals, we can see kind of a waterfall type report where, all these costs are coming in, how much is non-labor, how that non-labor is spread, and then your labor costs and how your labor costs is spread across different roles. We can then look at that across all your projects. So yeah, just a lot of different visualizations, a couple different ways to present this information. So yeah, so this has been well received in terms of kind of not a Microsoft project level detail of project management, project planning, but a very convenient way to, put in high level assumptions and kind of plan, down to the resource level, not by tasks, but, just to get some project data in there so that we can kind of review, okay, where's our spending going? How are we doing plan versus actuals? Review the project totals. Are these projects staffed appropriately and supplied? And then we can feed this data to our capital planning and tie it to our level of investment and our planned spend analysis. Okay, so that that basically wraps up the capital planning and project planning portion of the screen. Do we have any questions? We're at about 50 minutes, so we'll give a couple minutes for questions here. Again, if you come up with any questions or you want to see any specific examples, please feel free to reach out to me here. This is my email, jared.bialek@Simplify Solutions. Even if you want to talk about any of our other planning areas, we can set up a call, send you some information. They can talk about, again, any of our areas of planning, be it workforce planning, financial statement planning, our very popular consolidations, prepackaged solution. So yeah. Well, if we don't have any questions, Lauren, I think that, I think we can.
Yep. Yes, and there will be a recording available after the session that I'll send in a follow-up email. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Great. All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.